Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ada's fourth for this year, fireside chat. Welcome, everybody. We're going to start on time. I think a couple of people are still joining. Just give it a few minutes, but we'll start on time. Um, Today we are in North Africa, if we call Northeast Africa. We've got participants who are representing the Egyptian market, but we're all Africans. And the topic for today is evidence meets experience. We're looking to see how we, as actuaries, connect the academia with the real life world. And we have someone here who's going to give us a lot of examples of how she's been able to do it. We're also pleased to have a woman on here. So our fireside chat is Roba Bairakdar. I hope I pronounced that right. And Sohail Ali will be moderating and asking her the tough questions, although they've known each other for a long while, so I don't know how tough the questions will be in actual fact. I'll give you a little bit of background to Roba. Roba is the assistant professor of the Department of Maths and Actuarial Science at the American University in Cairo. She has a PhD in Actuarial Science from Concordia University, as well as an MSc from the same university and a BSc in Actuarial Science. I think somebody likes being in school. She's graduated summa cum laude. I just used to think that that's a lot of Delta languages that are given in US universities, but it's supposed to represent somebody with a lot of knowledge. Her research focuses on catastrophe insurance, risk theory, and extreme value theory with publications in top actuarial journals. She plays a leading role in advancing actuarial education and strengthening the industry's engagement at USC, which is American University in Cairo, and in Egypt. Alongside her academic work, she is appointed actuary to several leading insurers in Egypt, which I think is fantastic. She has an associate from the Society of Actuary, and she was the youngest qualified actuary registered in Egypt. Well done. And is the Society of Actuaries Hickman Scholar. I think I only know about the Hickman Scholar because of you, but I know it's something to be really proud about. So well done for achieving it. She's also a board member of a pension fund. She serves on the Financial Regulatory Authority Registration Committee for Actuaries. She holds the International Financial Reporting for Insurance Certificate and is the vice chair of the SOA Middle East, Africa, and Pakistani Committee. Wealth of experience, massive. We welcome you here today and look forward to engaging with you. She will be moderated by Sohail Ali. When we asked him to tell us about his profile, he came really short. He was just like, I'm managing director and CEO of CAF. He has been CEO of Legal and General to CAFU, an ED at AXA Mansard in Nigeria, at AXA Egypt. He has held a life and P&L responsibility for a lot of an oversight for technical functions. Prior to 2008, Sohail enjoyed spells in Willis Towers Watson, Mercer HR Consulting as a consultant actuary in the UK investment and pension sector. Needless to say, despite the fact that he has given the limelight to Roba, Sohail is also extremely well qualified and has loads of experience behind him. So I might do a little bit of intro about ADA, African Actuarial Development Academy. This is why you're here. We were set up to advance the quantity and quality of actuaries in Africa, and this is part of our initiatives. We do it every quarter. We just want you to hear from leading voices on the continent and inspire you on your actuarial journey. So that's a little bit about us. But I want us to go straight into the meat of things. So I am going to invite Sohail and Roba to take it away. I've got a very short introduction. That's me done. Well done, guys. Over to you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that, Yasida. And can I just extend a huge amount of thanks to you and the ADA team? Volunteering takes time and it takes effort and it takes vision. And it's very clear that that's there from all you guys. So thank you for providing us with a forum to have this discussion. And thank you for all the work that you do behind the scenes. I know that you were kind of in the background, getting all the IT and making sure everything was sorted well in advance as a starting off. Two apologies I might make. It's not out of disrespect to Africa that unfortunately here I think I've flipped Africa. Goodness knows how, but I won't attempt to correct that in the process of this session. But I do know which way round Africa goes and how Ada is spelt. Second thing, I have an incredibly dry throat, so forgive me if I sip whilst we talk. But it is a fireside chat, and if we're not comfortable, we're not sipping on our hot chocolate, then where are we? The one thing I wanted to mention, if I may, is this week, in fact, on the 1st of November, Egypt had a huge celebration for the Grand Egyptian Museum being opened. I think Roba, as a resident and citizen Egyptian, was hugely proud of that. I think we here today are here to celebrate the one of the great actuarial edifices of Egypt, which is Dr. Roba Bairakdar, who I've been very fortunate to align my career with over the last 13 years. And it's a true pleasure to be in this position to just actually kind of go back and revisit and get nostalgic over Roba's career and her achievements. So thank you very much indeed for the forum there. So Roba, at the moment, I think we know what Yasida has told us about you, but I think there's a lot more in the background. It's always good to start off with a story. So please, can we hear a bit about your origins and your motivations? And then we'll pick into that.
Sure. So first of all, I'm very happy to be joining this panel today. Thanks. I'm echoing what Sohail had just said. Special thanks to the ADA team for all the hard work they're doing and for preparing such channels for actuaries to meet and to expand the profession. So thank you so much for all the efforts you've been doing and you're still doing. Sohail, so to be honest, Yasidi already has said a lot about me, so I'm not sure. At that moment, I'm quite shy and I don't know how to add more to what she had already said. But I'd just say just a few tiny words to add to what she said. So I'm an Egyptian, born and raised in Egypt. I traveled abroad for some time, got my education from my master's and my PhD degree from abroad, but then I decided to come back to Egypt because I felt that our region and Africa, they need the people to help them. So I thought it would be best for me that I use the knowledge that I learned outside and to give back to my country here. So this is the reason why I decided to come back to Egypt after this special time I spent abroad. And other than that, I believe that Yasidi had said all the details that she has about me. So I'll just move to the next question, Sohail.
Sure. So, I mean, in terms of growing up, Roba, you kind of went through international schooling in Egypt. At what stage did you start considering this word actuarial and trying to understand what it meant?
Okay, so actually, I was not sure what actuarial was. I did not know that word until 2 years after I started my education, my bachelor's degree at the American University in Cairo. So I had no idea what that word was. I have never heard it before. And I actually began my studies as a business major. I was studying all the details of the finance and all the numbers, but then I felt like I was lacking where those numbers came from, the analytics behind the numbers, the way the risk and uncertainty, they interact together to make financial decisions. So I felt that I was I needed more in-depth analysis of the mathematics that's happening in the background. So at that time, I went to the chair of the mathematics department at my university, and I told him that I love mathematics, but I don't want to be a math teacher. So ironically, I ended up becoming one later on, but it's a story for later. So I went to the chair of the department. I told him like, I love mathematics, but I don't want to be stuck with being only a math teacher. So please tell me if you have any other advice that you could give me. So at that time, he introduced me to actuarial science. It was a major that had started at the university like 3-4 years before I went and had that conversation with him. So it was pretty niche. And I like when he was started talking about it, I realized that it ticked all the boxes for me. It combined like the mathematics, the finance, risk management, real world impact. And I felt that this is a combination that I didn't find in any other field other than actuarial science. So I was hooked on that moment, and I asked to declare that major, and I dropped my business major and I moved to actuarial science. And I've been in that field since then, and I do not regret a day.
Yeah. Was it a particularly risky move at that time? Because I think how big was a cohort in those days for the actuarial science program at the American University?
So when I graduated, my cohort, we were like 4 or 5 of us in the graduation ceremony. So it was quite little. And still, of course, like the field itself is quite small in our region. Now it's a lot bigger than it used to be in the past. But it was a very risky decision because I jumped into something that I never heard about before. And then I met the chair for the first time, and he convinced me that this major is like I got convinced that this is where I want to be. So it was a risky and a very bold move, especially because like it only had started a few years back at the university. There weren't many actuaries in the market. It was still unclear to me where I'm going after graduation. But as I said, like I do not regret a day.
Sure. And as you were going through the program, were there any points of reassurance that I've made the right decision, or were there points of kind of scratching your head and thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I had a nice, safe major over there, and I jumped to this thing that nobody understands.
Actually, no, it's the other way around. So luckily in my university, like the students, we had like a very good community. We were all helping each other out, encouraging each other. Like we all know the journey to take actuarial exams is not an easy journey, but then you find your colleagues are taking the exams and they're encouraging you to make a study group and let's study together and let's do it. And if you're struggling with a topic or something, you always find someone who knows it and who's willing to help you. Or even if you don't know it, we just sit together and we try to untackle like this big puzzle. So it was and it still is a very helpful community that we have here.
Absolutely. And I mean, if I might share at this point, I know I'm supposed to be interviewing you, Roba, but I've had the pleasure of recruiting 10 to 15 to 20 actuarial students from your program, albeit it wasn't your program once upon a time. And it really points to the impact of one academic just having some conviction and moving forward. And I don't know if you want to say anything about some of the major academics at the AUC, because it was quite visionary, really, wasn't it?
Yes, so at that time, and still is until today, like the number of faculty members who teach actuarial science are very limited. And I'm quite grateful to the ones that taught me during my bachelor's degree here at the American University in Cairo, because they are the reason why I pursued my academic career, and they are the reason why like where I am today in my academic journey. So I'm quite grateful to what they had to offer. I remember like one of my professors, she saw that the students in her class were actually like after she finished her class, they were taking the probability course with her. And they were acing the course and they were getting like 100% in the course and like straight A's. But then when they went to take the Society of Actuaries exam, they failed the exam. So it was a bit not understandable. Like she had like a big question mark on her head, like why are they good in the class but they're failing actuarial exams? So she actually decided to take the exams herself. And she became like a role model for all of us because she took the exams, and we were getting mentored by someone who knows what the exams are like, who knows the kind of experience that we have to go through to take those exams. So it's not just about acing the material, it's the extra tips and tricks that she added to us in class were very useful. And I'm talking, of course, about Dr. Zainab Amin. and I'm still very grateful to her kind of teaching and her approach in my actuarial journey. Like, she's the reason of why I'm here in my academic role right now. And also, I'm quite grateful to, as well, to Dr. Ali Hadi. He's a statistician he's actually the founder of the actuarial science program at AUC. And without him, like, most of the actuaries in the Egyptian market wouldn't have been here, because the program wouldn't have been there for us to study in this program and to get to know each other. So we're all quite grateful to the two of them.
Indeed. And as you say, many of us in the industry are actually very grateful, because we've had amazing resource coming out of that program, in the sense of yourself and your cohorts that came after you, that we've managed to build a career on. So thank you to those academics who really were trailblazers. One question that occurred to me was, you were coming towards the end of your degree, year 2, year 3, you have some kind of industrial placement. How easy was it to transition from being very bookish and studying and going through the theory, and then understanding how on earth you would apply that stuff in the real world? Do you feel that university prepared you for that, or how did you prepare yourself for that?
Okay, so I'll be quite frank here with you. So to be honest, after graduation, I felt a bit lost when it came to work, to be honest. It's because I learned all the material. I know all the math, I know all the rigor, I know all the proofs, all the details. I aced all my actuarial exams on the first go. I got my associate degree early on, but then when it came to real life, I found that, okay, I'm not going to sit in the office and do integration and do geometric series. And so how do I apply what I learned in my education? How do I apply it to real life? And that was the biggest challenge that I had to go through when I did the transition from being a student to being an employee. And so here I'll tell a bit of a story about why I made where I started my career journey after graduation, and why I had that choice of employer. So so it was always a dream of mine to be trained by this, like, the godfather of actuarial science in Egypt. So at that time, we all knew that there was this chief actuary who was deeply committed to building the actuarial talent in Egypt. And he was the one who, for example, introduced the study schemes in Egypt to help aspiring actuaries complete the exams and to become qualified actuaries. This was never introduced in Egypt before he came to Egypt. And what also stood out about him was that he didn't just focus on the technical excellence and the rigor. He also emphasized the soft skills. So we also have to be able to communicate the math, the analysis that we do, which is something that actuaries are often stereotyped as lacking. We're not very well known to be good communicators, but however, he focused a lot on those soft skills that we need in our profession. And for those who do not know who I'm talking about, I actually am talking about Sohail Ali. And I'm not just saying that because he's moderating this session today. I actually truly mean every word that I'm saying here today. And I'm genuinely grateful to have started my career under his mentorship. He was the chief actuary at AXA Egypt at that time. And it's because of his guidance that I am where I am today in my professional journey. So thank you so much, Sohail, for giving me a few years of your experience, and we're getting the chance to work together. We've been friends since then, and I'm quite grateful for that opportunity.
Wow. Okay. I don't quite know what to say in response to that, but we'll do a love-in later, Roba. Sorry, Dr. Roba. We've got to be very official at this point. Well, thank you for that. That's interesting. I think in terms of...
I have a question to you about that.
Sir.
So can you remember back in the day, how many actuaries were there in the Egyptian market? How many associates, how many fellows? What was the profession like back then? Can you share it with the attendees and the audience today?
Yeah, I mean, going back in time, and again, I'll just provide a little bit of context. This is all about you, Rob, not about me, but I will try and give some context over where we were. Back in 2008, when I first came to Egypt, we had, I think, 7 registered actuaries. Now, to be a registered actuary, you didn't need to be a fellow. You simply needed to be an associate. There was one fellow who had trained in the US and was in his 80s. And there were 6 other associates who were looking after 300 plus private pension funds, and circa 30 life and non-life companies and doing the valuations and signing off. But really, they were all as external consultants. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 executive actuaries in a company working there. There were actuarial departments without actuaries, as it were. So, I mean, and again, that still remains enshrined in the regulation until today, which is an associate is good enough in Egypt. And again, that's one thing that we'll come on to talking about, which is how you're pushing that threshold onwards and upwards. But yeah, I mean, it really was, I think historically, we also had, Egypt had started an actuarial study program long before with the University of Cairo, affiliated and getting exemptions, I think, with the University of Kent back in the mid-90s. That program kind of had worked, but then I think the exemptions got pulled away. But again, it hadn't been the case that it had really produced any real associates or actuaries, maybe 2 to 3 over that period. And a lot of people, there was the flight away from Egypt. So Egypt was really in a stage where I think it was something of an actuarial backwater. And it was just incredibly opportune that, as you mentioned, Ali Hadi, Dr. Zainab Amin started off this program. And with legal in general really wanting to be in that market and push technical excellence, and perhaps being a little bit nervous as a developed markets entity associating its name with Egypt. They were really keen on pushing technical expertise. So as you mentioned, you know, the greatest thing I think that we ever did was to launch a study program of international class. And I was looking back at some of the other conversations. I think there was one back in April, and they were talking in Malawi how they did that. And the gentleman there, I think Mr. Wise, was talking about how he did it in Malawi and how he did it in Nigeria. And I think that broke the back. We became the employer of choice, and we just got amazing talent, such as yourself, such as the Rana Badawi, such as the Yusuf Shakairs of this world. They came into the Egyptian market and just showed what actuaries could do. Sorry, I've talked for far too long there. Back to you, Roba. So that's the context that we were in. So you came to AXA. You started, it was actually CIL back in the day. You came to me. Yeah, I was your first boss, wasn't I not? There we are. How did, and as you moved along, did you feel that, okay, it was a very abrupt and very different kind of step change in what you were doing, or did you feel the application of what you were doing? How big a jump was it for you?
So the jump from like the university to the real life, it was kind of a big jump. Like I said, it was hard to understand where is the link between like the actuarial exams that I did on pen and paper and how I'm not, like how am I going to do that in practice? Luckily, I got trained in a department that had the like very like good and organized learning process for all the people who joined that company. So there was like the technical training that we're getting, the soft skills training that we're getting, the like even the way that the organization of the Excel sheet and how to read an Excel sheet and all the Excel best practice that we need and like we need to use to make the sheet interpretable by anyone who opens it. This was a lot of things that I learned on the go, and I did not know it before when I was still at university. And actually, I felt that it would have been a good thing that I know a little bit about that before I graduate, which is why later on I started to introduce that to my students, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, it was a big move at that time.
There's a huge amount of nostalgia here because I'm kind of remembering some of the dirt that I gave you to sort out and what you had to actually produce at the time. So it really is, you know, going from the ivory towers of great theoretical education to dealing with the dirt of no actuarial department, an insurance company that's existed for 15 years, and data, you know, hidden under the rugs and whatever else. So that resonates, I think, with both of us and hopefully some of our audience as well, that, you know, you come in with these highfalutin concepts of what actuarial is, And then it really is back to basics at some point. So I think you'd done 1-2 years with us at CIL, which then became Actuarial. 4 years? Shame on me. See, time goes by so quickly. 4 years. But I was talking about before you started teaching. Yes. So what triggered the desire to start teaching? What happened? Remind us of that.
Okay, so I've always had a passion for teaching. So that was for a long time. I always when at university, whenever I found my colleagues or my friends, they're struggling with a topic, I would go in and like tell them, here's the whiteboard, let's get out some markers and let's just like do the math together. And I always enjoyed that. But for a long time, I wasn't sure if I would be good at it to do it professionally. So I used to be quite introverted, still am sometimes. So the idea of standing in front of a classroom and speaking in public, it felt very intimidating for me. And I wasn't sure if I would be good in doing that on a day-to-day basis. Like every day I have to stand in front of a big audience and to explain material to them. I wasn't sure if I would be good at it or not. However, so after completing my actuarial exams and becoming a qualified actuary, I was invited by the American University in Cairo to teach as an adjunct professor of practice. And the first course that I ever taught was the financial mathematics course. And it was pretty scary at that time because I was only 23 years old at that time, and I was standing in front of students who are in like their early 20s or like they're 19, and I'm 23, so I'm just a few years older than them, and here I am, the professor that they should be learning from and getting all the knowledge that they need from. So it was very intimidating. It was very intimidating. Yeah. So it was very intimidating at that time for me to be in that role. And but I kind of felt at the same time like it was intimidating at the beginning, but then I like after I like received the reception, like the reception from the students, how their eyes were brightening up when you explain something to them and you see like they understand what they're saying, what you're saying, and then there's those aha moments where something finally clicks in their head. So I felt like those moments are what I'm looking for in every session. So in every class I give to the students, I'm always looking for that aha moment for the students sitting in class. And I also encouraged my students in that class to take the Society of Actuaries Financial Mathematics exam. And I mentored them quite closely. Like I gave them all the tips and tricks that I built over the years of taking exams. I gave it to them so that they know how to take the exams. And to my surprise and pride, I had 100% success rate. So the students who decided to sit for the actuarial exam by the Society of Actuaries, all of them passed the exam on the first try. So this was an eye-opening experience for me, and I realized that I had finally found my calling, and this is where I belong. So teaching, it gives me a deep sense of purpose, and I know I wanted to continue doing that for the rest of my life, to help build actuarial capacity and to help shape the next generation of actuarial talent in Egypt. So I came to see academia as a platform for long-term impact, and we can do that through research, through mentorship, through program development. And I'm actually I'm deeply grateful to my professors, Dr. Ali Hedi and Dr. Zainab Amin, because they trusted a 23-year-old to lead a classroom, and they believed I could do something that I didn't believe that I can do it. So I'm quite grateful for them. They saw something in me, and I hadn't seen it yet in myself at that time. And because of their trust and that initial push, that's the reason why I'm here, where I am today. So
yeah, and if I were just to, I'm sorry, I am over talked.
I'm saying that's the reason why I decided to move to
Yeah.
academia. That was the initial ignite. Yeah.
One of the things I'd just like to reflect on as well, because hearing your passion and seeing that animation on your face, it's very clear that you found something that you truly love. But I'd also like to give the other perspective, if I may, just for the other people on this call, which was the amazing thing is during that period, and again, my mind's a bit hazy, 13 years or so ago, or 10 years ago, but it was just the amount of passion that Roba had for this. And the fact that it wasn't a case of, well, all of my attention has suddenly flipped from, you know, the day job to the night job or the afternoon job. I mean, if you talk about burning the candle at both ends, it's an incredible thing that one of my mentors, which told me, which, you know, hard work never goes astray. And it was just incredible during that period, seeing that passion, seeing it triggered, but then at the same time, just seeing the fact that there was still that passion and that joy and that learning happening at work as well. I think we have a force of nature here. Anyway, so you kept going, you kept going. You found your calling. Then what? Where do you go next from there? You're working currently in one of the best places to work in Egypt. You've got this opportunity, but it's not an opportunity, which is you're a professor of practice. You want to pursue that full term. What options do you have ahead of you?
Okay, so at that time, the options were either I continue working in the industry and do the teaching on as a part-time role as an adjunct professor of practice on the side, or I could do the other way around. I could do the full-time role being an academic and do the part-time role being a consultant on the side. So I had some initial concerns about that at the time. I was afraid I'm going to lose like the industry momentum. And I wouldn't be like, if I move to academia, I wouldn't be aware of what's happening in the real life outside, like the real life application. But soon after that, I realized that actually academic engagement can amplify influence, not actually diminish it. So balancing the teaching and the research and the consulting, it remains a challenge for me until today. But I find it is actually very rewarding. Like each area feeds into the other, and it strengthens my overall perspective as both an educator and an actuary or a practitioner. So at that time, I decided, okay, I'm going to do like full-time academia. And then that means I'm going to do the consulting work on the side as a part-time role. So I decided I want to pursue a PhD. So to become full-time academic, I have to do a PhD. So I started my PhD applications. And it was hard for me to choose to make that decision as well, because I made a promise to myself that I would not ask my mother to cover any tuition fees beyond my bachelor's degree. So I'm quite grateful for her to had covered my entire education up until that moment, and I'm quite grateful to her for actually as well investing in my exams, in my actuarial exams. But at that moment, I felt like that's enough. I don't want to keep on getting more money to get more education. That's going to be like an extra privilege than what I need. That's enough. So it was still a bit of a challenge for me. Like, how am I going to pursue my dream if I need the tuition for it? And the tuition is a lot. So for that reason, I'm actually quite grateful for the Society of Actuaries for funding my doctoral studies. So they did that through the SOA Hickman Scholar Program. So in case you're not aware, this is a scholarship program where the Society of Actuaries offers scholarships for a number of PhD students every year. And this scholarship, it gets renewed for like, I think 3 or 4 years every year, depending on the performance of the student, of course. So I was one of the lucky ones who became a Society of Actuaries Hickman Scholar. Of course, like the application is quite competitive. Like people are applying from all over the world to get that scholarship. And the first time I applied, I got rejected, and then I applied again the next year, and I'm grateful that I finally got this award at the next year. And that support of the SOA, it made the entire journey after that possible. So it wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for that funding that I got from the SOA.
It's incredibly inspiring in terms of, number one, the lack of entitlement, and then the fact that you managed to secure it. It just reminds me of, again, if I might reflect with you, which is when we started off doing study programs, I recall the incredible support we received from institutes such as the Infinite Actuary, who were providing study material for the Society of Actuaries. We simply wrote an email telling them that our guys earn 25% in hard currency equivalent of what the typical actuary in the US earns, and yet you want to charge the same amount, and wallop, there it came straight away, a 75% discount came in. So, I mean, there is a lot of compassion, and I think desire to see development there. And, I think we brought Actuarial, if not to the masses, then from the none to the few during that period. But that's a great story. And did you have any misgivings? You mentioned the fact that you might miss out on contemporary actuarial issues going to academia, but did you have any other misgivings about going anywhere or pursuing a PhD?
So initially, like naturally, there was some initial apprehension at the beginning when I began my journey, my academic journey, and I wasn't sure if my academic background at my bachelor's degree had prepared me for such a challenge or not. Particularly because I had decided to pursue a PhD in mathematics, not rather than a PhD in actuarial science. So, my bachelor's degree was in actuarial science, but doing a PhD in math, it means I need to know all the pure math, all the real analysis, the complex functions, and all the details that maybe I did not get the full background at the time at the university. That's I was initially intimidated at that time. But then I quickly realized that the curiosity and rigor and the pursuit of knowledge, it transcends geography. So it doesn't matter if I got my education in Egypt and then I continued to pursue it to continue pursue my PhD in the Western universities. It didn't it doesn't matter where I got my education from, as long as you know where you want to go and you have that dedication for it. So I understood that excellence is not tied to where you study. It's actually shaped by how deeply you engage with your work and the people who inspire you along the way while you do that work.
Right. And you mentioned the fact that the SOA were helping out. How did you finally choose where you finally ended up going, which was Concordia, I believe, correct?
Yes. So at that time, I had applied to several universities. I also got several acceptances from several universities. So first, before the PhD, I had to do a master's program at the beginning. So to do the master's program, I had initially applied to universities in North America and to some universities in Europe. And I got several acceptances from here and there, but at that time, like I said a few minutes ago, is that I didn't want my mother to pay any extra tuition fees in my education. So for my master's degree, I was looking for I kept on applying for different scholarships, and I was looking for the universities that would give me the best scholarship and the best because I wasn't I didn't want to go there and then struggle with extra work that I have to do in order to maintain my educational status at the university. So I eventually, some of you might be aware, if you had applied for graduate studies, is that some universities, they will give you a full funding, but others will give you partial funding, and others would give you a contract, and depending on the number of hours, you get funded or not. So I ended up prioritizing the universities that gave me a full funding. And then when I got that, unfortunately, so of course, I had of course other universities who gave me partial funding. They were of higher rank, but I couldn't afford to do this education. So I only filtered on the universities that gave me the full funding, and I chose the best out of them. So I went through this Concordia's website, and I looked at the professors there. They're kind of the research interests that they're doing, and I looked for the professors that share the same research interests that I have. And I found the professor, Dr. Melina Mayot, she shared the same interests as myself. So I chose to specialize in extreme value theory and catastrophe insurance, which are events that occur with very, very low frequency, but with extremely high severity. I actually I believe that this is a very niche and yet a very important area to study, especially for regions like ours, like in Africa, because resilience and catastrophe preparedness, they're becoming increasingly important these days. and there's a lot to explore and to model and to understand. So I felt that her kind of research interest aligns with what I want to do. And later on, when I got to, we had like a few Zoom meetings. I had some Zoom meetings with her and other professors from other universities, but I felt like I bonded a lot with her. And she was pretty young and dynamic and very energetic, and I quite appreciated, like I felt like there is a lot of similarity between me and her. Of course, like she was very bright, and at that moment I was like, I need to learn from that lady. So that's how I started my master's degree. And then for the PhD, I decided I want to, like, I haven't learned enough from her, so I want to pursue PhD as well. So that's why in the PhD, she was also my supervisor for the PhD, along with other co-supervisors as well. And again, like the story of the PhD, I already mentioned that like the SOA has helped me a lot through that career. So the first couple of years of masters were covered through Dr. Melina Mayot's grants, and then the PhD was funded through the Society of Actuaries. So I'm quite grateful to the two of them.
Fantastic. And obviously a PhD involves a huge amount of research content that's going on. So you were doing that out there in Canada, and you've since come back as an academic here in Egypt. Are there any key differences in terms of doing research there versus here, or you feel that actually the world is one now and everything is digitally connected, so it's not an issue?
So there is some similarities and there are some differences between the Western universities and universities in our region. So for example, like abroad, I experienced what it means to work with a structured, a well-funded and a collaborative research environment. There were clear systems of support and the most important part was the data accessibility, the availability of data, whether it was clean data or data that needed to be cleaned, but at least there was some data to work with. The research grants, of course, to mentorship networks and collaborations and interdisciplinary teams. But then in Egypt, there are some similarities and there are some differences. So the landscape is growing rapidly here in Egypt, and we have incredible talent and incredible enthusiasm. However, we still face some constraints in our resources and with data accessibility and with the research infrastructure. And most importantly, with collaborations. So there are very limited number of academics who are doing their research in actuarial science topics here in the region. So it's very hard to find people to collaborate with. And at the same time, if you want to, I can still collaborate with people from North America, for example, or people from Europe, but then I would end up, like most of the cases, it might end up like I'd have to apply the models to data from North America or for data from Europe. But in my case, I feel like I want to do those models for our region. So finding like people to collaborate with and to work with and to think together is quite limited at that time, unfortunately. So yeah, so anyways, like the contrast between like a source of like this contrast, it ended up being like a source of motivation for me rather than just frustration.
Yeah.
So it reinforced my belief that we can build ecosystems here that can empower young researchers and that foster collaboration across academia and the industry, which is what I'm doing at the moment. Like I don't have to do the research with only academics. I can make use of my connections at the industry to get the data that I need and to help make Egypt like a regional hub for actuarial excellence, for example. So this is the challenge that I'm going through at the moment, and that's what I'm trying to work on.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. And I'm conscious of the fact that we're 45 minutes in and we're just scratching the surface. I haven't even talked about COVID and Concordia and being there alone, and we won't because we don't have the time. But needless to say, I think Roba just touched on the amount of interaction she has with the industry. And honestly, like when she went into academia, I didn't think it was possible because I'd never seen that before from an academic having such links into the industry. And I mean, just from your perspective, Roba, I think you are a growing breed because in my memory, there was zero and now there's one. But Are there others as well who have come from a commercial kind of, industry perspective and then gone into academia? I feel it's quite unique that.
Yeah, it's very rare that you find someone who does this move. Like you'd find the other way around a lot, or like you find people finish their bachelor's degree and move right away to do their graduate studies, and then after they get an academic role, maybe they decide to move to consulting along with the academic role. But it's quite rare to find someone who did the work for in the industry and then moved to academia later on. Yeah.
Precisely. I think we're benefiting from that in Egypt. So I'd urge everyone who's on the call, when you get some time later, to go and take a look on LinkedIn, see what the AUC actuarial program's doing. There's some incredible stuff there. And even when Roba's not directly involved, she's still involved when it comes to data science, hackathons, or whatever else. That was a huge event that just took place in the AUC recently. So a lot of stuff to come up. Anyway, as I said, we're scratching the surface. You complete a PhD, or you're very close to completing the PhD after how long out there, Roba? 30 months, 2.5 years, 3 years? Was it even longer?
So it was actually like the master's and PhD together, it was 6 years, because like master's 2 years and then PhD 4 years. We had COVID in the middle, so that added a bit of extra time. That added another 6 months in my academic journey. And during that time, like during COVID, because everything was online, I decided, because of like the homesickness and being 8 hours different from the time difference was 8 hours compared to Egypt, and it was very hard for me to be away from my family. So I decided that during COVID, like for a year, I stayed back here in Egypt when everything was online and everything was, it still is, like thanks to COVID now everything is online.
Yeah.
Online now. So yeah, so part of my journey, like the 6.5 years, like the majority of them were I was in Canada, in Montreal, Canada, but then there was a year in the middle where I did my research and my work. I was doing it from Egypt here.
Sure. And so when you come back, what do you do? Is it straight back into the AUC and get 100% up to speed on credentials, or what were you thinking?
So, like we've said before, like the number of academics who have a PhD in actuarial science or a related field are very, very few, and like, even fewer are willing to come back to Egypt like after they've been staying outside abroad for a few years. Luckily for me, my home university, the American University in Cairo, they had a vacancy in actuarial science and they were looking for someone to fill in that role. So my focus, like when I decided to come back to Egypt, was quickly turned to teaching, like and I wanted to fill in that role in my home university, and luckily, alhamdulillah, I was able to get that role, which is the role I'm in today, the assistant professor of actuarial science. I believe that the return to Egypt, it was quite exciting and challenging at the same time. So I focused everything on teaching at that time, and I wanted to and to rethinking like what actuarial education should look like in Egypt. So I wanted my students to see beyond the exams and beyond the textbooks, and I wanted them to understand how the theories that they study come to life in practice later on, which is what I felt lacked when I was younger. So I made it my mission to kind of like bridge the gap between academia and the industry. Like every concept I taught had to have a real world anchor for the students, whether it was like pricing an insurance product and projecting reserves or managing portfolio risks. So anything that I wanted to explain to the students had to be explained from a real life perspective, not just from a theoretical mathematical perspective. So I like in my classroom, I began integrating like case studies, real data sets, and industry examples into the classroom. I spoke with my industry connections and I asked them if it's possible to share their data, maybe like of course like anonymized data, maybe that the students could utilize in their projects, they could utilize in their thesis, they could in their academic journey. So I also like I started to invite guest speakers from insurance companies, regulators, consultants, to share their practical insights in the classroom with the students. So the goal was, like, in my mind, the goal was simple. It was to prepare the students not just to graduate, but to like contribute meaningfully from day one in their professional careers. Uh, and also like I'm actually quite happy, like later on I had the opportunity to apply also like this experience and this expertise in the actuarial diploma program at AUC. So this diploma, it was developed in collaboration with the Financial Regulatory Authority in Egypt and the Insurers Federation of Egypt. So this diploma, it was designed to build actuarial talent in the Egyptian market and to support the aspiring actuaries to pass their professional exams and to become qualified actuaries. So it's not only about the undergraduate degree and the undergraduate students only, it's also about industry professionals, the young aspiring actuaries who are looking to become qualified actuaries, and they need the extra mentorship or they need the extra help. So that's why this diploma was actually created, and alhamdulillah, we have some successful stories out of that diploma, taking their first actuarial exams and progressing with later exams after that. So yeah, so to summarize, like this part, like teaching has become like it's more than a job for me. It's not just like a simple, like a regular day-to-day 9 to 5 job. It became a way that I'm thinking of how to shape the next generation of actuaries who understand both like the technical rigor of the profession and the realities of what the market needs and how they can serve the market, and ensuring that they don't just learn how to pass the exams, but how to solve the real life problems.
Fantastic. Okay. Uh, and I mean, there's been a lot of work going over the past 4 or 5 years. Any particular kind of seminal moments, or like case study, or one particular instance of something where you thought, I've cracked it, this has made a change? You mentioned those eureka moments that your students had when you first tasted teaching. Any particular kind of achievement or something that you've done or you feel you've done with others that has really changed the scale?
Okay, so I think like my proudest achievement since I came back was the collaboration that we did with the Society of Actuaries. So we launched the Society of Actuaries Student Success Program, I think around 3 years ago. Yes, so it was just like after I arrived. We launched that program. So this program, it provides students with a scholarship and the mentorship that they need to pass the first two SOA exams. So the students, they get access, like free access to the study material through the Infinite Actuary, and they also get, if they pass a mock exam, they get to register for the Society of Actuaries exam for free. So and given that we are in a like the exchange rate is quite going all over the place these days in Egypt, and the economical situation is not the best. So students have found that this is a very important, and they're quite grateful to this scholarship that the SOA has provided for us. So during the first year of the program only, we had 16 students and 2 faculty members joined this program. And I'm quite proud of the success rate that came out of that. So they started several of them, like a big majority of them, they passed their first exams through that program, and a lot of them have pursued several exams after this scholarship program, and they're almost done with the actuarial examinations at the moment. So I'm quite proud of this achievement.
Fantastic. And are we now, are we basically building legions of actuaries to go into actuarial roles, or are students coming out of the AUC kind of liberal arts program at the AUC and moving into different industries? What are you finding amongst your students, Roba?
Okay, so it has always been the case that students who study actuarial science don't only work in actuarial science, they end up working, like they move to several fields. So some of them, yes, they become actuaries, they work in insurance companies, like the traditional job of an actuary. Others, I find that they move to data science and they move into the new world of machine learning and AI and all of that, and they have the skills that they need for that through their actuarial education. because they have all the statistics background, they have the coding background, they have the modeling background. So they just need maybe to learn a bit of extra coding courses to become like stronger in the data science field. We also have students who decide to go to the finance field and move to investment banking and go through a separate track. Of course, like the monetary compensation is different depending on the field that they decide to pursue. And of course, like fields like investment banking, for example, they're quite lucrative. Of course, like they end up working like double the number of hours as compared to an actuary, but some students like they prefer to do that in their early career lives. So we the students, they're like, I don't want to say that we lose them to other fields, because they're still going to those other fields and they're becoming super successful in them. And I see a lot of my classmates who have become like CFOs of like oil and gas companies, and they've become chief data scientists and leading AI communities. So I've seen like the people graduating from actuarial science, they're quite diverse. They can go, they have the power to work in whichever field. And I always tell people who come to me and ask me like what's the difference? Like why do I do actuarial science and not finance or not data science or not whatever? So I always tell them like an actuary is like can go and do the work of a data scientist and can go and do the work of an investment banker and can be an actuary. But the other way around is not always true. Like to becoming an actuary is not that simple. Like going through the series of exams and all the education that we do is not as simple as taking a couple of YouTube tutorials on how to code, for example. So I find it like pursuing actuarial science and going through that like educational background is quite important. And it doesn't matter whichever field they go to, they have the strong mathematical and statistical knowledge that they need to do that work.
Indeed, and you mentioned two people that we know in common there, and just recalling conversations with them as well. I think they ascribe a lot of their success to their actuarial studies. I know of very few people who have come out of the actuarial program and then turned back and said, "I wish I had studied something else." Yeah, thank you for your answer there. So you mentioned the SOA as one of your proudest achievements in terms of helping there. You've also continued to work with the SOA. I think you see that you mentioned the role that you take there. How do you help? Why do you help? I mean, you're already very busy with academics. You've got the consulting stuff that we're going to talk about. How?
So, like I said, the SOA funded my PhD, and I am an academic today because of the SOA Hickman Scholar Award. So, and I feel like I have to give back to the SOA after all they've done for me, because I wouldn't have been here if it weren't for their kind of like the support that I had through them. Which is why when I got asked to join the Society of Actuaries Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan Committee, I thought that this is the best moment, the best time for me to do that after I came back here and be the representative of Egypt and like the ambassador of Egypt in the Society of Actuaries. I felt like this is what I should do because I need to give back to the SOA. And since then, like for the past 2 or 3 years now, I've been on that committee. Now I'm the vice chair of that committee. We try, like we have the same goal. They share a similar goal to mine. It's like increasing actuarial talent in the region and building like the profession, making sure that the academic educational systems, they're qualified, they have the good support that they need. So the SOA is quite helping with that. We do like several webinars trying to increase awareness about different actuarial topics. So for example, when FRS 17 came into the picture and everyone was clueless about what is this new standard talking about, the SOA did a series of webinars to talk about that. We've been doing the SOA regional symposium. So it's a symposium that it connects industry leaders and insurance professionals from the entire region, so Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan. We are all joining in, like we joined that regional symposium. We get to network with each other. We get to learn from each other, and we get to see what other companies are doing or other countries are doing that we're still not doing in this region. So it's a room for everyone to learn, and I feel that like this kind of like volunteer work that I'm doing with the Society of Actuaries, it adds it complements my way of thinking. Like just like I'm trying to give back to the Egyptian community and making sure that we grow the talent. Doing it through the SOA is really helping a lot in that.
Okay, fantastic. And as Jose's mentioned on one of the comments as well, I think a few of us have loved your input in the last two symposiums in Riyadh and Cairo recently. And yeah, they're just happening events where it's not a dry kind of thing where you go to a conference and all you focus on is the networking. Actually, it's a real living event, and there's a sense of excitement and thrust there. So thank you for that. So we've covered off on, sorry, please.
I just saw in the comments that Yesidi is asking us to slow down a bit for the translators. So I think maybe that comment is more intended to me because I speak quite fast. So I'll try to slow down a bit. Okay.
And I also shall slow down. So we're finished now with, or we've moved on to the PhD, volunteering with the SOA. Lots of time being taken up there. And then what? You had 5 minutes free. You decided, oh, I'll consult a little bit. What happened there, Roba? How much time do you have on your hands? What chip do you have? Is it some kind of Intel, 27 core beast? I don't understand.
So I actually like I joke with my husband a lot, like several times, that I need to clone myself. Like sometimes like I keep on getting calls from different companies who are asking for like a consultant to do some work for them. And I'm like, I started to run out of hands. I need like, and at home, like because I'm doing like a different kind of consulting work. So and each company, like they because of the privacy of their data. So I end up sitting with like 4 or 5 different laptops around me, and I move from one laptop to the other. So to answer your question, no, I do not have any time on my hand at all. But to be honest, I find it, I like it. So I find that that this extra work that I'm doing on the side, like the consulting work I'm doing, like I said, it's adding to my classroom. So the how the consulting part, how it started was that it began through the professional network that I had built before traveling to do my PhD. I had built a bit of a professional network, and then I maintained that professional network while I was abroad for those during 6 years. And of course, like my PhD and the technical credibility, it adds a lot of technical credibility to my kind of work. So so this technical credibility, along with the professional network built over the years, helped me get my first consulting role here in the Egyptian market. So and I believe that in the actuarial work, it's your reputation, it often precedes you. So clients and the regulators, they look for people they can rely on, or for both like the precision and for integrity. So I decided that I want to put like strong emphasis on continuous learning. So this is what an academic does like every day. Like we're always doing research, we're always looking for ways to learn something new. And I also wanted to stay current with evolving actuarial related topics, such as, for example, like IFRS 17, solvency regulations, risk-based capital frameworks, as well as the local directives here issued by the Financial Regulatory Authority. So I found that this continuous learning is very important and very relevant, and it helped me maintain and grow my consulting work on the side. So over time, my work with different insurers and the regulatory bodies, it helped me build a reputation, and this reputation is for transparent communication and, for example, like practical problem solving, which I believe are just as important as the technical accuracy.
And in terms of the first opportunity or the second, Roba, did you put your name on some kind of register? Did you approach people? Did they approach you? How did that come about?
So once you're qualified, like once you're qualified actually in Egypt and you be registered with the Financial Regulatory Authority, they have a list, and your name is added on that list. So in Egypt right now, so Sohail had actually, I think at the beginning of the call, I asked him like to share the statistics of the number of like qualified actuaries and the actively working actuaries at that time. Now the number of actuaries had reached around, I didn't check the last numbers, but I think it's around 68 or 69 qualified actuaries on that list. So from that list, I think around only like 20 or like 25 or 30 are actively working in the industry, because some on that list have moved to other countries, some have retired, some are no longer working. So accordingly, the number of qualified actuaries are very limited in Egypt. And if a company is looking for an appointed actuary, so not an actuary that is on a full-time basis, if you're looking for an appointed actuary who would work on like a part-time or a consulting role, the number is even a lot smaller than that. So like when I first started my consulting work, I started with pension valuation. So the pension valuation, like end of service benefit valuation, it was a pretty straightforward textbook kind of calculation that I knew from university. I just didn't know the standards, like the accounting standards that are needed, what is needed to be put in the P&L. I know how to do the valuation from an actuarial perspective, but I don't know how it is done and where it goes in the P&L. So this is the extra part that I had to learn myself. And I remember like my first role as a pension actuary, that was the first time I ever signed a report, and I was scared to sign a report on my own. So I actually called up another actuary who has been doing pension valuation for some time, and I asked them for help. And I asked them to review my work to make sure that it's rigorous enough, to make sure that there's nothing I'm missing, because it's the first time I ever sign on an actuarial report. And luckily, I had that help that gave me the first push in this kind of consulting work. And then for the first role of like appointed actuary, I'm actually quite grateful again to Sohail Ali here, because one of like the company here in Egypt, I won't mention the name of the company, but the company here in Egypt, they were looking for an appointed actuary, and they asked Sohail for some recommendations, and Sohail gave them my name. And I've been with that company now for 2 years as their appointed actuary. So thank you, Sohail, for starting my consulting work as an appointed actuary. And then since then, I added another client, another 2 clients were added to my list since that first appointed actuary role. And again, Sohail, I'm quite thankful for you for recommending me to others.
There's a concept, isn't there, in the Muslim world of sadaqah jariyah, that you do something good, and then it continues to pay on and it pays forward. So I've just been very blessed actually working with great people that you actually improve your own standing just by the success of people that you've been blessed to actually recruit and help along their way. So yeah, there's very much a win-win, and I think. I was just reflecting on the previous ADA session back in April, where one of the guys, I think it was Mr. Wise again, he said, your job is to make your boss look good. And I think I used to tell you that as well back in the day, Robert. It really does. There's such a win-win here, guys, time and time again, and I've been very blessed that Roba and I have shared that dynamic continually. So you're sat there in the AUC, this lovely, wonderful, beautiful building, great people, everyone's talking the same language. And then you get out in the street and start consulting to a pension fund. There is a bit of a difference in terms of you've got to negotiate commercial terms. You've got to deal with people to get clean, beautiful data. You've got to understand whatever the hell the rules mean. There's quite a bit of a difference there. How did you find that? Was it grating, or did you go to it like a duck to water?
Okay, so I personally believe that in consulting, like I've learned that the most important skill is to listen first and to truly understand the client's context and the constraints they have and the objectives they're looking for before trying to offer any technical advice. And this is actually something that I learned from my academic life, is that I need to break things down into smaller problems before I tackle the big problem first. So no two companies are alike, and good actuarial advice must always be tailored to the purpose of that company, what they're looking for. So I always make it a priority to try to communicate like complex actuarial concepts in clear and accessible language, which is one of the soft skills that, as I said before, like is one of the soft skills that actuaries might like be stereotyped as they are lacking that type of skill. So whether I'm presenting to the CEO or to an auditor or a regulator, my goal is always to try to make the numbers meaningful and actionable. So not just present the numbers and that's it. Like my role is to explain what those numbers they mean. So and of course, like consulting actuaries, they often operate at the intersection of multiple interests, like the company management and the auditors and the regulator. So it's critical to make sure that we ensure that the advice we give remains objective and grounded in some actuarial judgment. So I find that this is it's quite important, and that's how I try to deal with my clients that I work with outside of my academic world.
Good to hear. Um, just thinking to myself as well, obviously, when you come in on a new consulting arrangement, there will have been somebody signing a report previously. How does that process go? Have you ever found any challenges with that? Or usually, how do you resolve any issues that you might find there? Because we understand the fact that not that everything was terrible in the past, but certainly there has been development in the market and things have been getting better, both in terms of processing power and indeed some of the competence of the people who are coming in versus the less well credentialed of previous years.
So it has happened before that sometimes I look at previous reports and I find numbers that are quite different than the numbers that I'm going through at the moment. And the first thing I do is that I doubt myself. I'm like, I'm sure I'm the one who put in a wrong assumption, or I didn't understand the question. So the first thing that I do is I doubt myself, and then I go in, I like go through all the assumptions again, go through all the requirements again, try to make sure that I'm covering all the basics and there's nothing I'm missing. Of course, it happens that maybe I have missed a thing here or there, but it did happen that I still find, like after making sure that all my calculations are rigorous, I still find that the numbers are not aligned with what was reported by previous actuaries. So at that moment, it happened before, and I relied on the actuarial standard of practice, which so basically what I did was that kind of like I got the opinion of another actuary as well. So I asked that other actuary, like, what do you think of those numbers? Like, let's go through the math together. Let's discuss it. Let's see if it makes sense. And when we did that, we kind of, at the end of the day, we realized that my approach is more accurate than the previous approach. So in that case, going back to the company and telling them that the previous actuary did something wrong is not good. Like you don't want to badmouth others. So
Yes.
so at that moment, luckily, we as actuaries, they trust us. Like we have good reputation. So what I used to do at that moment is that I don't want to badmouth other actuaries, and I don't want to say that their calculations were not like as rigorous as they should have been. So what I do is just like I say, like there are difference in the economy. Like you understand, like for example, last year the inflation rate was that much. This year the inflation rate is that much. So that's what kind of like affected the result, without going into the details of saying anything about other actuaries. Like I don't want to do that. So this has happened before, and this is how I handle it.
Cool. And I think that again maintains confidence in the profession, which is a key thing because the results can't swing left, right, and centre. And again, as long as we're signing off on the figures that we put through now, and we're fully in have some conviction with that, then that's a key part of what we do. One quick question before we move on, which is, do you find having consulted, is there some kind of aspects of your consulting work that you think make you a better teacher? Or on the flip side, you know, as a professor, are there some parts of teaching that you feel, you know, make you better consultant? Is there anything that, you know, springs to mind?
Okay, so like I mentioned, so like during my consultant work, I try to bring the teaching mindset.
Yeah.
So I try to break down like the complex ideas into smaller problems, and that are like logical and clear, like each problem on its own. And I believe that this is invaluable when trying to explain like the technical results to non-technical stakeholders, like for example, board members or auditors or CFOs. They might not understand all the details, so breaking things down for them would make it more understandable and easier to explain. And this is similar to what we do in the classroom with the
Yeah.
students. Before we go and solve like the SOA question, we start with like solving like a small type of question and then expanding on it to go to the big question at the end. And for the other way around, I feel like my consulting work, it always constantly feeds into my teaching. So I regularly bring real world case studies into the classroom, from like valuation challenges, from solvency assessments, risk capital modeling, product pricing exercises. So all of those, I try to bring what happens in real life to the classroom, so that the students, they do the work on Excel or on Python or on R, depending on the type of course that I'm teaching. So I use these experiences to help students see like the full picture, not just how to do the calculations, but how to frame the problems and how to prepare reports and how to communicate the findings in a professional setting. So as I said, it's still important to teach them the soft skills that are needed in real life. So they need to know how to write executive summaries. I remember the very first time Sohail told me like write an executive summary. I ended up writing like 4 pages, and it was it had a lot of details, and then I later on understood that no, an executive summary has to be brief, to the point. It has to be that the CEO just reads this paragraph or like 1 pager, and he understands the full report and the full findings that he needs to know only from this page. So I started to try to teach that to my students. They need to learn how to present the results confidently and respond to questions from clients under pressure, of course, of time, or questions that they didn't think of before and they just put on the spot, and you have to answer the question now. Because these are the qualities that distinguish a good actuary from a great actuary. So I try to bring that from a consulting world into the teaching world.
Very cool. Thank you. Roba, we're an hour and 15 in and you haven't drunk anything. How is your throat doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, good. Right, so before we
still have time. I'm not sure, like
oh, sorry, yes, we're well, I'll make it
we
shorter
can
then in
talk
that case.
forever if they don't stop us at some point.
Yeah, we could talk forever. It truly is a fireside chat, guys. You're all intruding on two friends catching up. So yeah, the future. Everybody's talking about machine learning, AI, blah 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 blah. I've got white hair, so I don't have to really engage with it, but I will because I'm an actuary and it's part of my CPD, and I want to move forward. But obviously, the world is changing hugely. How's that impacting you in your two roles at the moment? One as a, you know, a professor, and then the other as a consultant. And how is it changing? Yeah.
Okay, so the actuarial profession is evolving rapidly, and the entire world is revolving rapidly around the new data science and the new AI and all this new fancy technology that's coming in. And of course, like I'll start with the teaching role. So teaching, it has to evolve with it. So like I try to always, like at AUC, we continuously are working on integrating data science and AI and automation into the actuarial curriculum. We're trying to keep track of the real life outside and to keep track of the SOA exams and requirements in order to make sure that the students, they have the technical skills that they will need in this future. So actuarial science today, it sits at the intersection of mathematics, programming, and analytics. So students, they need to be comfortable working with data pipelines, coding in Python and in R, and using AI-assisted tools to extract insights from complex data sets, doing machine learning. But it's not just that. So like at the moment, it's no longer enough to know the math. Like actuaries must be able to explain the why and the so what behind their models to the decision makers in the company. So while the tools that we are using, it is changing as we speak every day, the core of actuarial judgment, it remains human. So models, they can process the data, but they cannot yet interpret the context or assess the ethical implications or understand the human side of the risk. And that's where the role of the actuary becomes even more important. So as technology, it handles more of the routine calculations, actuaries in the future, I believe they will be spending more time on advisory roles. So more on like scenario analysis, communication with executives, with the regulators. So in many ways, AI, it cannot replace us. It's shaping our focus towards like higher value thinking kind of approach. And yeah, so that's how I see it going, whether from
Cool.
teaching perspective or from a consulting perspective, it's the same, it's going to be end up the same result anyways.
So if I were to paraphrase, Roba, it doesn't mean we've got more or less to offer. It just means that we've got different to offer. Is that fair?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, Roba, just to say, this has been an immense pleasure. We've lived the last 15 years or so. Oh, I'm going to get the numbers wrong. My numbers are all over the place today. But we've lived a certain number of years together. And I feel like I've lived through and seen a snippet and a snippet and a snippet over time. But actually, it's wonderful to actually sit with you and see, step back and see the full picture of what's happened with you over the last 13 or so years. Even that's right, isn't it? Jolly good. So it has been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much to Ada. We have some questions, or at least we have one question coming through at the moment. I will read that, which is from Anu. Anu, forgive me, I'll just mispronounce your name, so I'm going to call you Anu, but I'll take lessons and I'll learn how to say it properly later. As an aspiring actuary currently preparing for the SOA exam P, I'm interested in understanding how I can strategically build my technical and analytical foundation whilst navigating my actuarial journey. What practical steps or resources, Dr. Roba, would you recommend to balance strong exam performance with developing relevant skills that are valuable in today's actuarial job market?
Okay, so hello, I'll copy Sohail and I'll call you Anu as well. So hello, Anu, thank you for your question. I strongly believe, so I'm not sure if you're a student or you graduated, it's not clear in the question, but I'll assume that first you're a student. So my advice to you would be to try to seek internships. Try to look for like insurance companies that are like they have an open role for an actuarial intern, and try to work under the supervision of an actuary, a qualified actuary, or someone who has the skills to teach you what it's like to be an actuary. So this helps a lot, and it adds a lot to the skills that you will need to add on for in your future. Also, I would recommend that you try to do like for example, the Society of Actuaries, it has the case study research challenge. It has it for students. So you can go on this research challenge, collect a group of your friends and work together on solving a real life case study, an actuarial problem, and compete against other universities. You could be one of the winners for like who got like a monetary prize at the end. And if not, you still learn a lot through the process through that. So it gives you the skills that you need to apply the math that you learn in class in real life. There's also, if I remember correctly, as well as CAS. They offer, for example, the Casualty Actuarial Society. They offer online internships for students from all over the world, and I have several of my students applying to those internships, and you can do them online. So it's like in the summer you have a month or like 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not sure exactly how much, but you have the time to work online, and they give you the skills that you might need as well in your future. So try to think of, like, if you see other kind of opportunities similar to that. So that would be a great way for you to start.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I think, do we have any further questions?
Yes, there was one more question that got lost in the chat. It was from Jennifer. She asked, does one need an ASA designation to qualify for the PhD scholarship offered by the SOA?
So the SOA, I think, yes, you do. I'm not sure, like, don't quote me on that. Maybe the information is available on the website. When I applied, I already had my exams done. But I do believe that, like, in the personal statement that you have to write to the Society of Actuaries, you have to mention that you are you're looking for someone who's pursuing both a PhD and who has progress in actuarial exams or planning on doing progressing in actuarial exams. So I remember at that time when I applied, I had already finished my associateship and I was working on my fellowship exams, and I actually wrote that in my letter, and they kept on every year when I'm renewing my letter, they kept on tracking the progress of my actuarial exams. So they're not only tracking the progress in the PhD research, but also the progress in the actuarial exams that you're doing on the side. So if you go on the SOA's website, they have all the details and all the requirements to get this scholarship. It's called the SOA Hickman Scholar Program.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think we're therefore done with the Q&A, unless anybody else would like to ping something through quickly. And if not, then I'll hand back to our team at ADA, who have been kind enough to facilitate the platform for you and me, Roba.
Thank you so much, Ada team, and of course, like, thank you, Sohail, for leading that conversation. It was quite interesting, and if they hadn't stopped us, like I said, we would have gone forever. So, but we had to stop at some point. So thank you, Sohail, for all the interesting questions, and for the Ada team for making this event today happen. Thank you all.
Thank
Great. Thank you so much, Roba and Sohail, for this. This was amazing and inspiring, by the way. I didn't expect to join this and be like, ooh, my gosh, I'm so inspired. So thank you so much for the work that you've both been doing to further the development of the actuarial profession in Egypt and North Africa. And we've actually heard a lot about what you guys are doing from the SOA. So that's amazing. So just to wrap up, so this is our last fireside chat, but not our last event. For 2025. We've had 4 so far this year. Our very first fireside chat was last year, where we started with the CEO of Africa Re talking about why, the actuarial excellence in Africa and why it's important across Africa for us to all be doing that. We also had Wise and Luzani, which that's the fireside chat that Sohail keeps referring to, where we talked about from actuary to a CEO and how we're leading beyond technical roles. We had a fireside chat in French, where we had Tay Lawson and Cedric Maxwell talking about how to be impactful in your roles as actuaries within the companies. We also had a fireside chat from East Africa, where we had Thomas Njeru and Jay Koskei talking about innovation and impact in agriculture and inclusive insurance. And of course, now we've had this one. And I was so happy to also see how you were incorporating peer review. I wasn't expecting this, but how you're incorporating peer review and discussing with other actuaries in your talk, Roba, which was great. And maybe that also gave me an idea that maybe we will include that in one of our future either fireside chats or webinars. But we always welcome feedback. So please, guys, if you have any topics or any interesting speakers that you want us to bring to this fireside chat, please just get in contact with us. Our email address is contact@ada.africa, and we will do what we can to make it come to pass. So we have one more webinar that is scheduled for Thursday, December 11th at 2 p.m. Lagos time. And it's actually referencing one of the issues somebody brought up in terms of training universities. So we're actually having a joint one with SOA, where we're going to talk about how people can get VE accreditation for their universities. And I think, Roba, we have you coming back for that one. Hopefully you know already, but yes, we have you coming back for that one because of the amazing things that you're doing with your university as well. So please mark your calendars for Thursday, December 11th at 2 p.m. Lagos time, 3 p.m. CEAT or Egypt, 4 p.m. East Africa time. Please elaborate for all the other time zones that you are in. So please, if you have students and faculty that you know of, or if you are a student or faculty member, please join. Watch our LinkedIn page. We will post it on there when we have the registration ready. And then also there was a reference to the Student Success Program with the SOA, which Roba mentioned. So we're working on something for ADA. Again, please watch the space, follow our LinkedIn page to hear more about it. It will really depend on us getting the volunteers and the tutors that we can get. So please follow, volunteer if you can, assist, and we hope that we'll also be able to roll that out for across Africa as well. So we're really excited about that one. So we hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as we have. We thank you so much, Roba and Sohail, for this. It has been an amazing experience. Also, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. Again, LinkedIn is the source of the truth. So please just follow our LinkedIn page and you will get all the updates from there. So I think with that, we will just say thank you very much, everybody. It's been great. And we will see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.